The Federal and City Union Bank jointly present the Tanjavur Marathon 2025 on Sunday, February 23. This event is powered by Sri Kamachi Medical Center and Anandam Silks and organized by Tanjavur District Athletics Association.
I'm from India, but I'm from America. I'm from the world. For about 30 years, I didn't really have easy access to Indian music. Step back and think about what is success. And music to me is a bridge to love and peace and understanding and harmony. Music led me to meditation. You're here on the planet for a very short time. And in the short time, you make your corner of the planet better. And I'm stuck to my key and my raga. He's happy to deviate.
Hello and welcome to Culture Vibes, the Federal's special program in which we talk to writers and artists about their work. Today, we are thrilled to have Grammy-winning artist, entrepreneur, and philanthropist Chandrika Tandon with us. Welcome to the show, Chandrika. Thanks much indeed for taking the time out for me.
It's such a pleasure to be here. And thank you for including me in your show.
Let's straight off the bat ask you a very obvious question. How has life changed after Grammy, and has it sunk in yet?
Well, it's early days. It just happened on Sunday, and Monday was an intense, day, and yesterday was a travel day. I just got back to New York after LA, so it hasn't sunk in yet. But in a sense, um, life won't change that much because I have a lot of musical projects underway, and they will continue on with great intensity. But I think what the Grammy does is it gives us a completely new set of listeners, a lot more people that you get to meet and get to know what it is we're doing. So I think from that perspective, the Grammy does give you a little bit more exposure to the
Right.
music. Gets more exposure. It's less you. It's more the music.
Absolutely. And another aspect of it is that it's sort of coming like a full circle because in 2011 your debut album Soul Call was nominated for and about 14 odd years later you win it. Does this moment mean something to you specific, or music is its own reward?
It's more than music is its own reward. The reason I do music, I
Hmm.
love getting the recognition. I love the fact that I was nominated. I love the fact that I have a almost cult following for many of my albums, and I've had that for a while. Um, the reason I make music is because A, it makes me happy, and B, I make it so that everybody who listens to it can also sing with the music, can follow the music and sing with it. So I really work to make the music simple and to make it so my purpose of making music is very different. It's not economic. It's not fame, fortune. That's not what I'm about. I've never been about that.
Right. And when did it, strike you that specific moment that you, if you could talk a little bit about that you decided to dive into music, even though you had an altogether different career or different career path, basically.
Well, I used to sing a lot when I was little. When I think I sang before I spoke. In fact, in second standard in Chennai, I remember. It's funny. This is talking of life coming full circle. In second standard, I was the solo singer in my play in Holy Angels Convent. And in fact, that song that I sang there in English, which with the and my mother made me a basket of flowers for that song. That that song I've actually included last year in the album I released for my grandchildren. So because I still remember the song. So I was singing for many years before. I was just singing always when I was almost very little. The thing
Mhm.
that I have done over the years is that because I've been in the business world about 20 some years ago, I really wanted to redefine my life because I had a spiritual crisis, one might call it, where I had to step back and think about what is success. You know,
Mhm.
what is it that why am I on this planet? Was it just to do more deals, which is I was doing one deal after another. I was very, very big in the business world. Was it just to make more money, do more deals, or was there more? That started out as a simple question, but it became a very complex question. And then I said, well, what happens What are the happiest moments of my life? What does it mean to be happy? So I started to ask some very, very difficult questions of myself. And it was a tough time to ask the question and a great time to ask the question, because very often people soul search when a crisis comes up,
Yeah.
something really bad happens. And then you say, oh my God, why did I do this? And you change your life. For me, I was really lucky because there was no crisis. Everything was going okay. But I was lucky that I was able to ask these questions. And I decided to include music as part of my life. I said, the happiest moments of my life have to do with music.
Right.
And that's how I said, but, it wasn't about music to perform or music to do it. It was just music to sing for myself. I just wanted to sing, but I wanted to sing well. I wanted to learn new songs. I wanted to understand more ragas, and so that I could create music. And that was what my goal always was. I wasn't trying to be a concert performer. So I began the whole journey over the next few months, years, really, of trying to find teachers that would accept me. And teachers wouldn't accept me because A, I was not able to give up my whole life and follow them. And B, I was not 10, a young person ready to be groomed into their tradition. I had a life, I had a daughter, I had a family, I had a business. I couldn't give everything up. So I wanted to figure out a way to balance. So I would do insane, crazy things, to learn music. I had a little daughter. So, and the teacher I found first was in 2 hours away from my home in New York, in Wesleyan University, very, very learned master.
Mhm.
I begged him to give me a class at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I would drive, even in the middle of the coldest winter, I would drive at 4 a.m. I would leave New York, drive for 2 hours, sing
Mhm.
the whole way in the car, have a 2 hour class with my teacher from 6 to 8, and come right back and reach home by about 10:15 or so, singing the whole way in the car. So I would have 6 hours of singing and practice right in time. Fortunately, my little baby daughter would wake up late. So I would come right at home to be able to wake her up and spend the day with her. So that's how I balanced my day. And Monday to Friday, I was traveling all over the world, country, all over the world, working. But I would always get on the planes in those days with a box of cassettes and a
Mhm.
walk. I don't know if you remember the days of the Walkman. So I
Of
used to have,
course.
and yeah, so I used to have a Walkman with headphones, and that's what I would all my flights. I loved flights because the flights were really not at all tedious for me. Most people will say, "Oh my God, it is a long flight for me." Wow, it's a long flight. That means I can listen to 4 hours of music. That's how I brought music into every part of my life. So I took it much more seriously
Right.
um, over the next few years, but still keeping my other angles very, very grounded. I still was in the business world. I still was doing a lot of other things.
Right. So, but was this idea of a genre that, of course, it has become very big now? You have Ricky Cage, for instance, who was also nominated in the category, and you had Anushka Shankar, Radhika Vakiria, and most of the music is kind of that meditative. There is that soulful element and that element of well-being of our soul searching, as you said, and looking inward. And I was just curious if you approach composition as a kind of some kind of a spiritual practice, or does the creative process maybe take a life on its own?
Music for me is the way I found myself. So it is completely spiritual practice. Music is the way music led me to meditation. So when I started music, in Indian music, and you can't be a really good singer at the level I was aspiring to be. And with the teachers I was working with, who are masters and brilliant, brilliant artists, they would say, go on and go work on the sa for the next half hour. And
Mhm.
to just one note, to be precise about one note. Even now, my practice sessions are not ragas. My practice sessions are exercises of, four notes in continuous sequences over and over and over again, just so I can precisely get that point right. That's what we work on. So when you do that, you can't find the stillness of the note until you have the stillness of the mind. And that's a process. When you're busy, you're flitting about here and there, and you're stressed or thinking about other things. Suddenly, in fact, one of my teachers would say to me, as I was in the middle of singing, he says, I know you're thinking about something else right now. Come back to the class. And this is the level of masters I was working with. So that's what happened. So with music, I had to find a way to quiet my mind, and that led me into deep meditation. I've done 10-day meditation retreats. I do TM. I do a lot of meditation, breath work with Sudarshan Kriya, and so on. And that led me into the life of service. So it's been a whole spiritual journey through music, because at the more you go into meditation, you find you cannot be happy until you can bring the world together with you. You have to, you can't take anything with you. You're here on the planet for a very short time. And in the short time, you make your corner of the planet better and go. You can't take anything with you. You don't know the address you're going to next. You can't make a little bank account for any time. Whatever's done is it's finished. So you just have to live a really good pure life, and that's what the music helped me find. And so is that a divine spiritual practice? Oh my goodness, yes. And I think all of the other things that you were raising about
Right.
people doing the music for wellness, look, mental anxiety and wellness is a huge topic. It's a more fashionable topic now. It's a very popular topic because there are
Yes.
big, the wellness industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And this isn't just whether it's the Calm app or whatever else, different things. So music has just always been a healing tool,
Right.
always, and but we are now connecting the dots much more. Many more Western, and of course, you're talking about the Indian singers in this particular category, but people
Yes.
have been doing bhajans and chants for years. Krishna Das, Uttal, Divya Prabha, you name it. I mean, they, of course, some of them, had strong accents. The Indians didn't really want to listen to them because, oh, wow, they didn't pronounce this right. But it's given a lot of joy to a lot of people, thousands to hundreds of thousands of people. Okay? So I think this is now getting more attention from two reasons. One is the music is accepted more main stage, and wellness has become a more main stage issue. So it's a wonderful confluence of circumstances that
Right.
comes. There's a very much a spiritual practice. And by the way, I'm talking about Vedic chanting, which is what my tradition
Yes.
has been. But in my album, 2 albums ago, I worked with Gregorian chants. I worked with big, big choirs in terms of adding together harmonies. And in fact, the next project I'm working on is in fact bringing together harmonies with the Sanskrit chants. And you get some extraordinary vibrations with those as well.
I wanted to ask you about these collaborations that between with Wouter Kellerman, who's of course he's also collaborated with Ricky Cage earlier, and Eru Matsumoto. Both of them are very distinguished in their own right.
Well, so Eru had this idea for
Mhm.
for an album, for making an album. We've never met each other before this.
Mhm.
I'd heard of Wouter because he and I had submitted together in a category in global. So I've heard of Wouter, and of course he has heard about me, and he knew my voice and my music. So
Right.
we didn't really know each other. So Eru had wanted to do an album around sound and healing and all of that. And so I guess she and Wouter had talked a couple of years ago. It didn't go anywhere. But then Wouter called me up and said, "Look, we would love, I want you to meet Eru, and I'd really love to get your voice on this album." So
Mhm.
it started out as a general idea, and then we started talking, and then this became a real reality when they all came to New York for a few days. And
Right.
we just, for the first time, we met in my apartment, and we then went to the studio. And then for a few days, we didn't have anything really done at that stage. We just started to create sketches
Right.
for ideas. And so, he'd play a line, and then I would go back and think about it and say, okay, I want to add this mantra in this tune in this way. And then, oh no, that mantra syllables wouldn't quite work with the rhythms we were creating. So all of this, it was a musical experience. So at the
Mhm.
end of those few days, we had the skeleton of the album. And then we went back, Eru to LA, Wouter to Johannesburg, me back to New York. And
Mhm.
and we started to just work on it. So I'd go to the studio, like the Chant that I just showed you. I did that I just went to the studio and I developed it a little bit more and developed it a little bit more. And then I sent it to Wouter and Eru. And then Wouter said, I want to add this line of flute to it. And then some I would like. I'd say, no, 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 you can't go off the raga, or I want you to stay with this note or whatever. So this was the journey that we had. So it was multiple back and forth, some fights, for sure, because we are three strong-willed people who have strong ideas about how we want our music to go. So I'd say, well, how I am not having my, I know, like Woda would say, I love your earlier version. I don't like this version that you've done. I say, nope, I like this version. This is what I stand by, and this is what I want to stay with. So, so we would have those kind of debates. And Oreru would say, no, I don't want you to interrupt when I'm singing or whatever, playing or whatever. So it was that kind of musical debates, and ultimately the album came about. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about collaboration in a wonderful way, and but most importantly, we all felt good about what we produced. We felt that we were happy to give this to the world. The Grammy is a cherry on the cake, but really this was just we are so happy for people. A lady just wrote to me. In fact, I've got many, 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 many emails. And but today, just among the many emails I received this morning, what 20 or 30 people just today, this morning, wrote to me to say, I discovered Triveni because of your Grammy, and I just want to tell you, I have not stopped playing Pathway to Light nonstop. One of the tracks, and I was thinking to myself, it does something for people, and she wrote that it's become my now. It just took me to a different place of relaxation. So I say, hey, the fact that this person had that moment of joy, and she's not Indian, she doesn't know anything about Sanskrit mantras. It's exactly what you said. It transcends boundaries. It transcends our barriers. One of the most exciting concerts I did was, in fact, where we brought together a group of people who were doing from Africa, from the Buddhist chants, and they were doing the Islamic chants, the Buddhist chants, the Vedic chants, and then we had the Jewish cantor singing some of the Jewish liturgy, and then we had the monks from the Greek Orthodox Church singing. The five of us came together, and then I just took a raga tune, and we all did, and we found all the commonalities, and we did it at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. It was one for the 9/11 people. That to me is where, and I was using words of Sanskrit, which were universal words of let us remember the good in people. So I created those, and we were singing their traditional liturgies. So there's so much commonality. And music to me is a bridge to love and peace and understanding and harmony.
Right. Chandrika, one question about, of course, when the Grammy was announced, a lot of the headlines were framed in a way that established your connection with Indra Nooyi and your younger sister. And I was just curious if what kind of relationship do you guys have, and is that something that you would like to talk about?
Well, she's my sister. I'm so proud of her. I've been proud of her with the great heights she's achieved. I have always been proud of her. I think the Indian press in particular loves to frame the relationship, and so it's a unique angle. Only in India they do that, but I love it. It's great. I mean, it's an improvement. I mean, the early time they didn't. At least now I'm doing more things in the music world. I'm a little bit better known, but it doesn't matter. Look, at the end of the day, this is about the music. It is about people finding the music. This is not about fame or fortune. This is just, it's wonderful. I think she's a very accomplished woman, and the Indian press knows her. I think for India, I think talking about the relationships, the first question people ask you is just who's your father? What family are you from? So we like to make associations, and it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just how it is.
What kind of other music do you listen to, or is it something that you confine yourself to just this kind of music?
I can't, because if you go through my albums, oh my God, like the artists I work with on my previous album on Amu's Treasures,
Yeah.
The artists I collaborated with were Bella Fleck, the world-class banjo master who's won God knows a billion Grammys, it looks like. And he worked, and Kenny Warner, who's a jazz maestro pianist, Eugene Friesen, who's an extraordinary cellist. So I collaborate with a lot of people. This is what I love doing. And I listen to everything. Look, for about 30 years, I didn't really have easy access to Indian music. So in concert style. So when I was working all over the world, which is what I've done, and in the US, um, where if I lived in Brazil, I was deeply into Brazilian music. I've traveled to the northeast of Brazil, which is into Recife and Fortaleza and Natal. The north, which is Brazilians haven't been there, and I can tell you the Ashe music, the Sopa Contraria, all the groups that do that kind of music. I have the largest, probably at the one point, I probably don't anymore because Spotify and YouTube have taken over. But I used to have the
Yeah.
largest collection of Brazilian CDs because every client and everybody I worked with, and I worked there for a couple of years, would just give me CDs as a gift. When I made my money, I my first $5,000 when I came to America, all I bought with my first $5,000 were two things. And that they gave that money to me so I could pay my rent and live off the food. It was an advance for a month or two of work, of living. What I bought was a Martin guitar for $2,300 or something. I bought a
Okay.
stereo system for about $1,800, and I had about $200 or $300 left for food for to take me through a month and a half. And what I lived on the first month I came to America was on rice and coriander chutney, which I found a lady to make me coriander chutney, and that's what I ate for because I had no money to buy anything else because I had to wait for my next salary. So, but I listened. I had a collection of discs, LPs. So I needed a stereo system so I could listen. And by the way, the discs were there was not a single Indian music piece in that disc. Those discs. These were French songs, French albums. These were Stan Getz and Charlie Bird and Desafinado, and there was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, King Crimson, the Beatles, Rolling Stones. So I go to all the concerts. I've gotten lots of awards from the town hall. Lots of American institutions. I was on the board of Lincoln Center for many years, so
Right.
I'm involved with classical music, with jazz. I'm a bit deeply engaged. I've lived in America for 47 years, and one of the most glorious things of living in New York and traveling
Mhm.
around the world is my mind is wide open.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not closed. I've lived with the monks. I've spent time, not stayed overnight, but spent time in monasteries. Listening to monks chant. I've spent time in convents. I record in Abbey Road in London with the
Mhm.
With the London Voices, with the London Metropolitan Orchestra. So I work with a wide variety of music, and I always do. I mean, I'm always listening to something. That's
Right.
why even when I look at a raga, I'm always looking for commonalities. If you hear my album Shivoham, it's all connecting the
Yeah.
Bhupali raga with the Irish jig. And so I keep trying to go between cultures. In my head, it's not that I'm consciously trying to do that. That's how I listen to music. I'm not bound. My theme for
Hmm.
my life is unbounded.
Do you see these travels and this absorption of different cultures or different ways of living, seeing, also informing your music in some way?
Of course it does, because what it
Yeah.
does is makes you much more open-minded. In fact, when I do master classes and workshops with musicians, which I do a lot of in because I'm involved in multiple music schools, I talk to them about this. I say, look, even if you're an incredible classical musician, it's very important because the logic is, hey, there's such a lot to be done in classical music itself. To master just all of Mozart's going to take me a lifetime, and I don't have time to listen to something else. And the same thing could be true, like to master a raga for the Indian classical musicians takes forever, 2 years, 1 year to really get good at this. Where do you have time? In fact, one of my teachers used to say, I don't want to pollute myself listening to something else, because I'm so much into the raga. That's one school of thought. I don't, living where I do in my cultural experience, because I'm from India, but I'm from America. I'm from the world in a sense.
Yeah.
And so much of my life and my world uh, is very global, is very international. So I really think, I don't think in terms of a fusion, because I am fusion. I'm
Yes.
already, I mean, there's so much of Indian in me, but there's so much of other traditions in me. There's so
Absolutely.
much American in me. I mean, because 47 years, I've lived longer here than I lived in India. But yet, that's my cells are from there. So I keep the traditions. I'm naturally blending. But
Right.
yet, a lot of my tradition, my training has been very, very strong, very pure. I worked with the most exacting masters who killed me, who
Mhm.
killed me, like where the teachers would say, you haven't got it, and they would make me practice the same note. Even now,
Right.
that I still practice with some wonderful teachers in India on Zoom and everything, and I still go through exercises to. I can do all the fusion you like, but the foundation has to be
Right.
precise.
Right.
So that foundation I try to work on. It's harder sometimes than others, but I try to
Mhm.
work on.
Would you like to name some of them, and also if you are how much clued in on the music that is coming out of India? I mean, of course, there are Indian American artists and Indian British artists, but those who are based in India and making music.
I don't really, I'm not following each one, to be honest. I'm not, I have a limited amount of time, and I'm quite busy. As you know, it's not just music, is just one part of my life. I have a whole business life and an academic life. So I'm very, it's a three-pillar life. And so I'm very busy with it. So I don't really, there's lots of things I don't have time. But so I'm not sort of following someone's music. But if I hear someone, whether it's a film song or whether it's a beautiful piece that's coming out, whether it's India or anywhere else, I'm all ears, because it just gets into your soul, and then it feels exciting. But the teachers, I've worked with an extraordinary amount of teachers, I mean, over the years, because it starts with years and years ago with B.V. Raman, B.V. Lakshman, the twin brothers from a very traditional Carnatic background. They taught me for a couple of years. And then I worked with a very great Carnatic music master who was a professor of ethnomusicology at the Wesleyan University, T. Vishwanathan, who gave me a very deep grounding in very, very strong Carnatic music, in Padams, Javalis. He's the brother of T. Balasaraswati, the greatest dancer of all time. And so they've got a very, 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 very difficult style of singing. So he's the guy that I would go to and work with at 6 a.m. And then I met Pandit Jasraj ji, and he taught me quite a lot. And then he gave me his most senior disciple, Pandit Girish Vazalwarji, who's no more. So Pandit Girish Dada gave me so much training, because I would go to India in between and go, and Dada would come and make the time to come to Chennai or Bangalore or Delhi for 10 days at a time, 14 days at a time. And we would work for 10 hours each day, non-stop music, where he taught me the different ragas. And I would come back home with boxes of tapes. I would tape it and bring it back. Veena Sastrabuddhe is another one of my teachers who taught me how to sing. She taught me how to open my voice. Veenatai has one of the most glorious voices in Hindustani music, and she also has a vast repertoire of bhajans and um, of the Nirguni bhajans of Kabir and Nanak, and so she taught me a huge number of those, and then I worked with Vijay Kichlu, who was a founder of SRA, the Sangeet Research Academy. And so he's the one that, even when I did my first album, he's the one that kind of connected me to Tejan Narayan Majumdar, who ended up being my collaborator for many of my albums from India, a real maestro who just got the Padma Shri this year. Shubhra Guha, who was another teacher. So I have, and by the way, these are the teachers that Sanjay Banerjee. So there's a whole group of them that I work with, but I try to get practice sessions with whoever I can. And I also work with amazing musicians like Kenny Warner, like so on. And then we end up actually, the composition sessions end up being like lessons for me, because they come at the same song I might sing. He would improvise in a completely different way. And whereas I'm stuck to my key and my raga, he's happy to deviate. He's happy to go off and then come back, and then he encourages me to do that. So I've learned so much. And of course, the first music teacher was my mother, who's a brilliant singer, and she would sing all the time. She'd always be playing the veena. So a lot of the songs I learned the veena when I was little, and I would sing a lot of the songs that she did. So I'm always learning. If
Mm.
you sang a song, I would probably take it away and be thinking about it and try to compose something different from that tune. This is the way I roll.
Right, right. That has been incredibly fascinating, Chandrika. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's it has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure the world discovers your music. More and more people come to your album, to your music, and get totally transformed. Thank you so much.
What a sweet thing to say. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
The Federal and City Union Bank jointly present the Tanjavur Marathon 2025 on Sunday, February 23. This event is powered by Sri Kamachi Medical Center and Anandam Silks and organized by Tanjavur District Athletics Association.